Okay, good morning. This is my seventh class in engineering thermodynamics. Like we did in the last class, we'll also solve a problem, sample problem in this class before we move on to the first law of thermodynamics for a flow process. So the problem is here. The problem is it reads like a gas is compressed. See, every word has a meaning. A gas is compressed. First, what is the system? System is the gas and it is compressed. So, we are talking of a compression process. It is compressed from which pressure? 80 kilopascal and 0.1 meter cube to 0.4 megapascal and 0.03 meter cube. That means one pressure value and volume value are given to you, which are representing the initial state. Then we have one final pressure value and final pressure volume value, that are 0.4 megapascal and 0.03 megapascal. And this compression process is governed by an equation Pv to the power n is equal to constant. What kind of process it is? If it is represented by Pv to the power n is equal to constant, is it an adiabatic process? No, because this index is not gamma. Is it an isothermal process? No. This is a polytropic process because it is Pv to the power n is equal to constant. Of course, in this process, the value of n is not given. What are given? Only you are given the initial pressure, final pressure, initial volume, final volume, and the equation by which pressure and volume are related to each other. And what we need to find out? You need to find out what is the work in this process. So let us, like the last class, let us proceed the same way. What is the first step? First step is you have to represent the process in a PV plane and then make a list of given information. So let us make a list of given information. What are given? P1 is given, P1 is given and P2 is given. So let me write P1 is 80 kilopascal, then P2 is 0.4 megapascal, V1 is 0.1 meter cube, V1 is 0.1 meter cube and V2 is 0.03 meter cube. Okay, so these are the given information, given data. So you have to make a list of given data, and what else is given? The PV to the power n is equal to constant. This is also given. Okay, and if we represent this process in the PV diagram, then this is a compression process. So pressure is increasing and volume is decreasing. So P in the y-axis and V in the x-axis. And this curve is represented by the equation Pb to the power n is constant, and n is the polytropic index, and this particular compression process is precisely a polytropic compression process. So this is the first thing that you need to do. And what is the next one? All that you have to do is to find out the work done in this process. And by now you know what is the expression for work done in a process, polytropic process. If n is the polytropic index, then work done in a polytropic process is, if you look at the list that we have prepared, the table we have prepared, the particular process and the corresponding amount of work done, you will find that for a polytropic process it is P1 B1 minus P2 B2 divided by n minus 1. So you already know P1 B1 and you already know P2 B2. If you can get the value of n, then it is a case of simple arithmetic addition subtraction. So all that you need to do here is to find out the value of n. Now how to find the value of n? P1 B1 are given to you, and what is also given to you is the relationship between P and V. So you can write according to the equation P1 V1 to the power n is equal to P2 V2 to the power n. And P1 value is known to you, V1 value is known to you, P2 V2 values are known to you. But here you see, this is in 80 kilopascal, this is in 0.4 megapascal. So you have to express that in the same unit. So in place of 0.4 megapascal, you can write 400 kilopascal. Okay. So 0.4 megapascal is 400 kilopascal. So now, how to find out the value of n? P1 by P2 is equal to V2 by V1 to the power n, and ln P1 by P2, if you take logarithm of this, then it will become n ln V2 by V1. Okay, so you from this you can find the value of n. Find the value of n. Once you find the value of n, now things will be easier for you. Once you find the value of n, then you can put it in this equation, which is the expression for the magnitude of work in a polytropic process. So what is this is how you have to find the value of n, and then work done in this polytropic process. Work done in this polytropic process is P1 V1 minus P2 V2 by n minus 1. So find out this. P1 you already know, V1 is also known to you, P2 V2 are also known to you, and by now you have found out the value of n. So if you put them, then you will get a value for your work associated in this process. And since this is a compression process, what you are expecting? You are expecting a final answer with a positive sign or a negative sign? Obviously with a negative sign, because this is a compression process. Because in a compression process, work is or will be done on the gas, therefore it will be minus something. So you get minus 11.3 kilojoules. This is the answer, minus 11.3 kilojoules. Alright, so this is the work you finally get. Now certain things, you see, why you are getting minus here? Because you know that it is a compression process, the expected answer will be coming in negative. It has come in negative. Second thing, why it is kilojoules? Because you see, it is kilopascal, pressure is in kilopascal, so kilonewton per meter square, and this is in meter cube. So kilonewton per meter square into meter cube is nothing but kilonewton meter, and Newton meter is joule, so kilonewton meter is kilojoules. That's why I converted this megapascal to kilopascal, so that uniformity in the units of pressure is maintained. So this is how you can solve this problem. Similarly, any problem on work and heat can be solved, and the solution can be presented in this manner. First step, you draw the diagram, and just draw the diagram the way I am drawing. Okay, I mean, not necessarily you have to use scale and colored pencil, and the lines should be perfectly straight. Not like that. It should be thermodynamically correct. Just draw it like this. This is x-axis, y-axis. If it is a compression process, it will be like this. Then 1 and 2, that is important. P and B, this is important. Now this completes your diagram of a process. If it is a process where the process is a P and B are related by a straight line, then it will be like this. It will be like this. Alright. So as per the information given to you, you have to think of how it will look like and then draw the diagram. That is important. That is first step. In the diagram itself, you write 1, 2, P, V, etc. and don't describe it. Don't write that 1 is the initial state, 2 is the final state, y-axis is the pressure, v-axis is the volume. Not like that. And if you can do, you can also write the units here. If possible, you can also write the units here, so that your diagram will be clearer. Okay, and then you make a list of given information, then you use the appropriate formulation and get the answer. Then as you get the answer in positive or negative, accordingly you interpret while writing the final sentence. Okay. So this is one sample problem that we are discussing today. And as I told you, I will be giving you some more problems to solve. But what is important, what is more important is that you must know how to present the solution of a thermodynamic problem. It should be written the way it should be written. Alright. Now, another thing, in the last class we discussed about a term enthalpy and we defined it. How we defined it? We defined it, for your benefit I am repeating, that thermal energy is a form of energy and thermal energy manifests itself either in a flowing form or in a stagnant form or stored form. If thermal energy is flowing from one body to another, one system to another due to temperature difference, then that form of thermal energy is called heat, with which we are acquainted, very much acquainted. The thermal energy's form, the form in which thermal energy is stored in the system doesn't flow from one system to other, but rather it gets stored in the system. Then that stored form of thermal energy is called enthalpy. Enthalpy has a unit joules, kilojoules or megajoules, just like the units of work and heat. Alright. And enthalpy, what else I told about enthalpy? I told that enthalpy, like any other property, by virtue of being a thermodynamic property, this is also a point function, unlike heat. Heat is a path function. So heat and work are path functions, they depend on the path followed by the system in a process. And whereas enthalpy, entropy, pressure, volume, etc., all the thermodynamic properties, they are not, their change is same irrespective of which path is followed by the system while migrating from one state to the other. So enthalpy difference between a state point 1 and a state point 2 can simply be quantified as H2 minus H1, whereas work done in the process 1 to 2 requires the relationship between pressure and volume, the exact path followed, and the information about the initial and final state. Therefore, heat and work are path function, whereas enthalpy is a point function. Now this enthalpy, how it is quantified? Enthalpy H is quantified as the sum of internal energy and flow energy. This is internal energy and this is flow energy. When a system exists, just because of its existence, it has some internal energy, and we have already discussed what is that. Internal energy is the internal energy of one molecule that consists of its rotational kinetic energy, its vibrational kinetic energy, its translational kinetic energy, its nuclear energy, its electronic energy, all forms of energy possessed by a single molecule. When you take the sum of that, that is called internal energy of the molecule. Now when you have a bulk of gas, a bulk of the system, then it contains say n number of molecules, and n into this internal energy gives you the total internal energy of the system. Now since I have denoted it as small h, small u, small b, you must understand, if you recall my last class on intensive property and extensive property, we denote the total internal energy as capital U and denote the specific internal energy as small u. So I have written a statement, small h is equal to small u plus P into small v. That means this is specific enthalpy of unit mass is equal to specific internal energy of the gas, unit mass of the gas, and this is PV is flow energy of unit mass, specific flow energy, and PV pressure is Newton per meter square, small v is specific volume meter cube per kg. So this product gives you a energy term joules per kg, and this energy term product of pressure and volume is called the flow work or flow energy. So by virtue of its existence, a gas occupies some volume v, unit mass of gas, and it also exerts some pressure on the walls of the containers. Okay, the product of these two is simply called flow energy, and the sum of internal energy and flow energy is the total magnitude of enthalpy possessed by that system. So I have written it in the specific term. If I write it in the total form, then total enthalpy of a system is equal to total internal energy plus total flow energy. Okay. So while here the units are joules per kg, joules per kg, joules per kg, here the units will be joules, joules and joules. So this is how we quantify enthalpy. So we quantify enthalpy as the magnitude of enthalpy therefore is the sum of the internal energy possessed by a system plus the flow energy of the system. Flow energy is the product of pressure and volume. So you can write U plus PV, or in place of U plus PV you can always write H. H is the notation for enthalpy. If it is capital H, it is total enthalpy, that means for whole of the gas. If it is small h, then it is for unit mass of the gas. So this is something I wanted to tell you, and one more thing I want to tell you is what is the universal gas law. The universal gas equation, as we know, is PV is equal to nRT, right? PV is equal to nRT. Now this is very important, you must listen carefully. PV is equal to nRT. What is P? Pressure. V is volume. N is number of moles. R is universal gas constant. And T is absolute temperature. That means temperature expressed in Kelvin. Now, number of moles. Number of moles means 1 mole of the gas contains 6.023 into 10 to the power 23. That is a special number called Avogadro's number. That many number of molecules. Then we say it is 1 gram mole of the gas. If it contains 6.023 into 10 to the power 26 number of molecules, 10 to the power 26 number of molecules, then we say it is 1 kg mole. 1 kg mole of gas. Okay. So 1 kg mole of gas, and then here what is the unit of universal gas constant? This is kilojoules per mole K, or kilojoules per joules per mole K, or kilojoules per kg K. So if I replace this, then in terms of mass, what is this N? Number of moles is equal to mass of the gas divided by molecular weight of the gas. So if I replace it, then what I get here? I get mass of the gas in kg divided by molecular weight of the gas. So the gas equation becomes like this. PV is equal to mRT by N. What I am trying to tell you is that henceforth in this class, because our approach is macroscopic, not microscopic, I told you that our whole approach of learning thermodynamics is macroscopic. That means we are considering things that are happening at the bulk level, not at the molecular level. So we will be removing this term kg mole, mole, etc. In place of that, we will be writing mass of the gas. So the equation becomes like this. So this equation will be equal to PVM R. This I am writing U here. U means universal gas constant into T. So you get an equation like this. So PV is equal to mRUT by M. Now this term, what is this term? This term is universal gas constant. What is the universal gas constant value? 8.134, I think. 8.314 kilojoules per kg mole K. 8.314 kilojoules per kg mole K. So here if you divide it by molecular weight and name it differently, then this is equal to PV is equal to mRT, where this R is not universal gas constant, rather this R is the universal gas constant divided by the molecular weight of that particular gas, and that R is called, this is universal gas constant divided by molecular weight, it is called specific gas constant or characteristics gas constant. This specific gas constant or characteristic gas constant, that means if you change the gas, if first you have taken oxygen, then you are taking nitrogen, then the R value will change. But universal gas constant value doesn't change. It is 8.314 for all. But if you are using this equation, PV is equal to mRT, where m is the mass of the gas expressed in kg and R is specific gas constant or characteristics gas constant, then in this case, for when you change the gas, it is specific to a particular gas. So if you are changing the gas, then the R value also will be changing because the molecular weight does change. Okay, so henceforth I tell you to remember the gas equation not as PV is equal to nRT, but as PV is equal to mRT. So from today onwards, for you the gas equation is not PV is equal to nRT, it is PV is equal to mRT, where m is mass of the gas in kg, R is specific gas constant, it is kilojoules per Kelvin, then kilojoules per kg Kelvin, T is absolute temperature, Kelvin, P is pressure in kilopascal, V is volume in meter cube. So if you are expressing, remember this, from today onwards for you the gas equation is not PV is equal to nRT, it is PV is equal to mRT. Okay, mRT, small m. This m is mass of the gas expressed in kg. This R is specific gas constant. This is the universal gas constant that you already know, which has a universal value divided by the molecular weight of that gas for which you are solving the problem, and the unit will be kilojoules per kg K. T is the not the temperature expressed in degree centigrade, it is temperature expressed in Kelvin scale. Pressure P is in kilopascal, because unless you write in kilopascal you will not get kilojoules in the left hand side. Then volume is expressed in meter cube, which is the standard unit of volume. So if these are the units of respective terms, then PV is equal to mRT is the gas equation which is to be used whenever you feel like using it in while solving the problem. So today we know about few things that are important for problem solving. One is enthalpy. Quantitatively is the sum of internal energy and flow energy of a system at any particular instant, at any definite state. If U1 is the internal energy, P1 is the pressure, V1 is the volume, specific volume, and H1 is its enthalpy, then we can write H1 is equal to U1 plus P1 V1. Alright. If we multiply mass here, this is per unit mass. If we are taking for m kg of gas, then it will mH1 is equal to mu1 plus mp1b1, like this. Or we can write it as capital H1 is equal to capital U1 plus P1 V1. Here you can mark one thing, that I didn't write capital P. I didn't write capital P because P is a intensive property. It is not depending on the mass of the gas. So extensive property. So P1 V1. So this is how you have to take enthalpy. Next we are intending to go for the first law of thermodynamics applied to an open system. Now what is an open system? There is a space and there is a flow taking place. There is a flow taking place. Okay. So if you take this as the system, or the system is a fixed quantity of matter or a fixed region in space. So this fixed region in space, if it is taken as a system, then there is some mass entering the system and some mass going out of the system. That means this is an open system. If you take a cross section here, if you take a cross section here, then you can see that some mass m is going in and some mass m is going out in every unit time. So there is a mass flow rate which is maintained and it is going. So this is an open system. Now how to write the conservation of energy equation in the perspective of thermodynamics for this open system or flow process where the flow is taking place across a fixed region in space. So that expression where we are expressing the conservation of energy in terms of different energy terms will be called the energy equation, and that energy equation will be the first law of thermodynamics for a flow process. But then this flow can be of two types. This flow can be of two types. Either the flow is steady. The flow of a fluid can be of two types. The flow can be a steady flow or it can be an unsteady flow. In your syllabus, we have only the steady flow to be considered at this moment. Unsteady flow will be discussed at a later stage. So we will be focusing our attention on steady flow of mass across a system boundary. Alright, so that flow which I was showing, that flow will be steady. Now what is a steady flow? What is a steady flow? So we must know what is the definition of steady flow. Now let me explain you, then I will write the definition of steady flow. And our equation, our analysis or our discussion for first law of thermodynamics will be confined to a steady flow situation only. So what is a steady flow situation? Suppose there is a flow taking place. Suppose some fluid is flowing, then I take a cross section here, flow section here, and at this location, let us say this location is 1. At this location, I measure all the properties of the fluid and I find that the properties of the fluid at a particular section or a particular point do not change with time. Do not change with time. The properties may change from location to location, but at a particular location, if the properties do not change with time, then the flow is said to be steady. That means if I take another location 2, then velocity here is v1, here it is v2, at a location 3, the velocity is v3. Okay, so velocities are different, well, the values of velocities are different from location to location, but at a particular location, the velocity is not changing with time. At location 2, if I record the velocity now, it is v2. If I record the velocity after 5 minutes, then also it is v2. Here it is v3 and after 5 minutes it is v3. So at a particular location, properties are not changing. Similarly, pressure is not changing. Pressure is changing from location to location, but pressure at a particular location is not changing with respect to time. Then we say that such a flow is called a steady flow. That means steady flow means a flow is steady. A flow is steady if the properties, if the fluid properties at a particular location, the fluid properties at any fixed location on the flow path do not change. The properties do not change with time. So a flow is said to be steady flow if the properties of the fluid at a particular location, this is important, at a particular location, fixed location, do not change. Do not change with what? With time. Then we say it is a steady flow situation, or the flow is said to be steady. And any device across which such a steady flow is taking place is called a steady flow device. Suppose there is a turbine and across the turbine steam is flowing, and this steam is flowing steadily. That means at any instant or at any location of time, at any location of the space, the properties of the steam are not changing with time. Then it is called a steady flow of steam across this turbine. This is a turbine. Okay, so this flow is called steady. Another condition of steady flow is that the mass flow rate remains constant. That means across a steady flow device, whatever mass of the system is going in per unit time, per second or per minute or per hour, that much mass must go out from the exit, from the outlet of the device at the same time. That means there is no accumulation of mass inside the system or inside the fixed region that we are considering as system. So the mass in and mass out per unit time is constant, and that mass in per unit time and mass out per unit time are called mass flow rate. So mass flow rate is also constant. So this is the definition of a steady flow, which includes two things. One is the properties do not change at a particular location with time. Second thing is that the mass flow rate remains constant. Now for such a situation, such a flow situation, or for such a device which is experiencing such a flow across it, we will be writing the energy conservation statement, and that mathematical statement will be called steady flow energy equation. And that steady flow energy equation is nothing but the mathematical expression for first law of thermodynamics applied for an open system, or simply say flow process. So this thing we will be discussing in the next class in detail. We'll take a thermal device across which a steady flow is taking place. We will list out all the forms of energy here, list out all the forms of energy on the outlet. Then we will also consider the work interaction and heat interactions, and we will come up with a final expression, and we will make use of that expression or that equation, steady flow energy equation, in solving problems involving thermal devices like turbine, compressor, pumps, compressor, then evaporator, recuperators, boilers, nozzles, diffusers, etc. Okay, so this much for today. Thank you.